Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing the rather hot issue right now of the notion of tourism returning to Thailand. I'm going to go ahead and quote some headlines. This is Bangkok Post. All this is Bangkok Post, and I read the Bangkok Post a lot. We use it a lot for research purposes. This is throughout the internet, though. There's other things out there. The Thai Examiner, Thai Visa has done a lot of this past week. And the reason for I'm using Bangkok Post is I have these print newspapers, and I can just kind of show you the topsy-turvy nature. I shouldn't say topsy-turvy, the kind of roller coaster nature of this whole discussion. And I think it's very illustrative, and I think showing the print version of the newspapers is rather illustrative of just how kind of back and forth we've seen this discussion go on a seemingly day-to-day basis. So a recent article, and this is from Bangkok Post Online, long stay visits possible this winter. That's the headline. I'm not going to re-quote directly from it. I just kind of want to show. So this is August 29th, 2020. So this is, at the time of this video, this is yesterday. We're doing this on a Saturday. Meanwhile, from the August 27 edition of Bangkok Post, we have the title, PM Backs Return of Tourists. And then going back further, we have front page article, again, Bangkok Post, CCSA names groups that can return. And there's been a number of articles recently, and I'm going to deep dive into a lot of this in this coming week on this channel. So pretty much every morning on this channel, we're going to deep dive into all the permutations of possible return of tourism to Thailand. But I wanted to go ahead and make this article because I especially felt I'm just going to set this down right here, excuse me. I especially felt that this recent, and this came out Sunday, August 30th. This is Bangkok Post, Sunday, August 30th. And front page, little backing for government's plan to reopen. Islands lukewarm on quote-unquote Phuket model amid fear of second wave of virus. And this so-called Phuket model, we'll get into that in a later video. We'll make contemporaneously with this one, but probably release a little later. I've already discussed this, actually. We discussed this. It came out of the Phuket News, and Phuket has come up with sort of a model wherein they're going to try to allow tourists in, sort of a truncated manner, keep a close eye on them, sort of quarantine them as best they can in order to have some tourism return to Thailand. But again, I think this whole past week, it's been sort of back and forth, talking about tourism, talking about restrictions, talking about the possibility of tourism, and then it's been kind of backtracked. And I think it's rather interesting, little backing for government's plan to reopen. And the reason for the title of this video is this all talk, quote unquote. I had a back and forth with a client regarding immigration matters the past 2 or 3 days. And we were kind of going over the possible variations in terms of visa category that might be available to him for entry to Thailand. And we were kind of going back and forth on tourism. And I said, look, there is some talk that this Phuket model may come to fruition, may be possible to enter Thailand that way. And his response was, and this was, we were going back and forth by chat. He said that some talk sounds like all talk, meaning it just didn't sound like it was anything that would probably be solidified anytime soon. I don't know if that's particularly a fair assessment, and I told him so in the back and forth. I think certainly the immigration authorities and the government, those with policy executive powers here in Thailand, are very, very circumspect with respect to whether or not they want to go ahead and reopen for tourism. What's clear to me is the notion that the gates are just going to fly open. I don't think we're going to see that. There's nothing in the news. there's nothing out there that causes me to presume we're going to see anything like that. And everything I'm reading is talking about a rather restricted initial entry and then sort of the parameters of one's ability to travel first intra-province and then sort of inter-provincial travel and then throughout the country. It may widen as time moves on. Again, and let's be clear, none of this has been promulgated into any kind of regulation or law. We haven't seen anything out there where they've said, hey, this is now the new policy. As it stands as of the time of this video, we are still dealing with the current situation as it stands where foreign nationals can get on flights into Thailand, mostly the repatriation flights, if they can get a berth on one of those flights and make all the necessary arrangements, but they still need to have one of the designated visas. Business visa, O visa tend to be the most straightforward ones, and I've made videos on this on that channel. ED visa may be a possibility. Notably missing from the list, as we've noted at length in other videos, are retirement visas. But I want to be clear. I think the government is serious about trying to get tourism back online, if you will, in Thailand. They want tourists back, but they are also trying to balance this against their fear of negative implications from this COVID-19 virus. So the thing to take away from this video, notwithstanding the back and forth, as of now, there is no scheme to allow tourists in. Every scheme that they're currently looking at is going to be rather limited in scope. It's probably going to be limited in numbers, and it remains to be seen. What does that mean? Well, what it means is we're still dealing with the system we've been dealing with for about 6 weeks now. I think we're probably going to be dealing with that for at least the next 6 weeks, and then maybe we'll see something starting to open up. But even then, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, and I think it's entirely possible that things won't have fundamentally changed until the first of the year. I quoted an official with TAT in another video on this channel, and I believe it was a quotation from the Tiger.com's article on this topic, and that individual specifically was quoted as noting that everyone discussing this topic is highly risk averse. The policymakers who would make decisions as to whether or not to actually reopen are very averse to the notion of possibly a new cluster of infections coming about as a result of tourism here in Thailand. And for that reason, that person noted that it may be January or even February before we could see any type of tourism returning. I'm not trying to make this video to provide opacity, sort of an information overload, but the fact is there is a lot being discussed out there. And the thing to get in mind, to keep in mind, or to note from this video is, notwithstanding all the discussion, there is no hard and fast program which has been set up. So until that time, or until we see a full reversion of the regulatory system back to sort of the status quo anti-COVID, the pre-COVID regime, until we see either of those two things come to pass, we are currently stuck with the rather truncated immigration system that we have had to deal with, as I said, for about the last 6 weeks.